Welcome to my channel $T Valuable Coins. So get it started. Hello everyone. Today, we are going to explore some fascinating old British coins, the historic 1 penny. Coins from different years. These coins tell a story of time, history, and value, so let's get started and dive into the world of coins. This is the 1963 1 penny, featuring Queen Elizabeth on the obverse and Britannia seated on the reverse. A common coin from the post-war era. Archive footage of the UK in the 1960s. Queen Elizabeth II's early reign and UK coin production. The 1963 1 penny coin was minted during the reign of Queen Elizabeth, who ascended the throne in 1952. This was a time of post-war recovery, social change, and industrial growth in the UK. Coins played a crucial role in daily life and commerce, and the penny was among the most commonly used denominations. The British pre-decimal penny was part of the old monetary system where 240 pennies made £1. This system had been in use for centuries, and by 1963 it was nearing the end of its long history. Decimalization was still a few years away, finally coming in 1971. The 1963 penny belongs to a series of coins that began under Queen Victoria and continued through multiple monarchs. But what makes this specific? The coin is interesting because of its design, production, and the place it holds in British numismatic history. Annotated breakdown of the coins. Obverse and reverse designs. Let's talk about the design. It features the first definitive portrait of Queen Elizabeth, created by Mary. In this depiction, the Queen is shown wearing a laurel wreath, not a crown, a classical style that gives the coin a timeless elegance. Around the edge, the inscription reads, Plus Elizabeth Dei Gratia FD, which is Latin for Elizabeth, by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith. The reverse features Britannia, a long-standing symbol of Britain. She's seated facing right, holding a trident in one hand and a shield bearing the Union Jack in the other. Below her, the word 1 penny is inscribed, with the date 1963 at the bottom. This design had been used on British pennies since the 19th century, making it deeply familiar and iconic. Technical breakdown, zoom in visuals of coin texture and wear. Narrator. The 1963 penny is made of bronze. When dropped, a feature that many coin collectors enjoy when identifying authentic bronze pennies. Visual charts showing mintage numbers and comparison with other years. Narrator. In terms of mintage, the 1963 1 penny wasn't particularly rare. Over 378 million coins were produced that year at the Royal Mint. That means it was a widely circulated coin and commonly found in everyday use throughout the UK. Although it's not considered rare in general, finding one in uncirculated or the proof condition is much harder today. These can be much more valuable to collectors, especially with minimal wear and original luster. Visual, different conditions of coins, price ranges shown on screen. Narrator. Now, let's talk about value. The 1963 penny in average circulated condition is usually worth around 10 pence to £1 depending on wear. However, in uncirculated or mint condition, it can fetch £5 to £15, and proof coins could go for more. Collectors are particularly interested in luster, no corrosion or green spots, sharp detail on Britannia and Queen's portrait. It's important to note that 1963 pennies are often included in complete sets of Queen Elizabeth pre-decimal coins. So, even though it's common, it still has a place of honor among collectors. Visual, coin in display box, people Collecting coins, closing montage. Narrator. The 1963 1 penny may not be the rarest coin, but it carries a piece of history in every detail, from its classic Britannia to the youthful portrait of Queen Elizabeth. Whether you found one in an old drawer or inherited it from a grandparent, it's more than just a coin, it's a story frozen in bronze. Next, we have the 1937 1 penny. Minted during the reign of King George VI, it's known for its fine detail and classic design. Today, we dive deep into the fascinating world of British coins, focusing on one of the most iconic pieces, the 1937 1 penny. This coin is more than just copper and design. It's a window into the reign of a new monarch and a pivotal year in British history. Whether you're a collector, a history lover, or simply curious, stay tuned for the full story. The year 1937 was significant in British history. King George VI had just ascended the throne after the abdication of his brother III in 1936. This change caused a delay in coin production. Coins with Edward VIII's portrait were never circulated, which made the 1937 coins the first official issue for George VI. The 1 penny coin from this year marked the beginning of a new numismatic era. Britain, still a global empire, was experiencing political and social change. The coinage issued in 1937 reflected both tradition and the fresh beginning under a new king. Show both sides of the coin with zoomed visuals. The obverse features the bust of King George VI, facing left. The legend reads 6D, G, BR, OMN, Rex F laughing smiley, IND, IMP. Which means George VI, by the grace of God, King of all the Britons, Defender of the Faith, Emperor of India. The portrait was designed by Thomas Humphrey Paget, a respected engraver whose depiction of the king was used for many years. The reverse of the coin shows Britannia, the seated female personification of Britain, holding a trident and a shield bearing the Union Jack. This design had been used on British pennies since 1797 and continued until decimalisation. The date 1937 appears at the bottom. Unlike some earlier years, 1937 pennies were not particularly rare. The coin was minted at the Royal Mint in London, using bronze, an alloy of 95.5% copper, 3% tin, and 1.5% zinc. Around 50.4 million of these coins were produced. Although not rare by number, the coin is still highly collectible because of its historical context. 1937 also saw the release of a foolproof coin, set to commemorate the king's coronation. These proof sets included a specially struck 1937 penny, which had a more polished and detailed finish. Collectors distinguish between circulation pennies and proof pennies. The proof versions have a mirror-like finish and are far more valuable. The 1937 penny, in circulated condition, is quite common and usually valued between £1 and £5 depending on where. However, uncirculated or high-grade examples can fetch £20 or more. A proof 1937 penny, especially one from a complete set in pristine condition, can be worth between £100 to £300, and sometimes even more at auctions. Errors or variants, though rare, can raise the value significantly. Coins with die errors, doubling, or misaligned strikes are prized by collectors. If you're looking to buy or sell a 1937 penny, here are a few tips. Check the condition, grading is essential. Look for sharp edges, clear details, and minimal wear. Compare with proof versions. If the coin has a mirror finish and no signs of circulation, it might be a proof. Use a magnifying glass, inspect for errors or minting anomalies. Buy from trusted sources, use reputable dealers or auction houses. Avoid online scams. The 1937 penny is more than just a coin. It marks the start of George VI's reign, represents British artistry in coin design, and serves as a gateway for many into the world of coin collecting. It links us to a time of transformation between two world wars. At the end of empire and on the cusp of modern Britain, the 1939 one penny was issued just before World War. It's a significant coin from a tense time in world history. The 1939 one penny coin comes from a very significant era in British and world history. It was minted during the reign of King George VI, who became king in 1936, after the abdication of his brother, King Edward VIII. 1939 was also the year that World War began. On September 1st, Germany invaded Poland, and just 2 days later, on September 3rd, Britain declared war on Germany. This marked the beginning of 6 years of global conflict. Coin production during this period started to change to meet the demands of the war economy. The 1939 penny, therefore, is not just a coin. It's a small artifact from a critical moment in history. The obverse of the 1939 one penny coin features a portrait of King George VI, facing to the left. This was the first official portrait of him on coinage. The legend around the portrait reads 6D G BR Hom Rex F laughing smiley IND imp. This is abbreviated Latin for George VI. By the grace of God, King of all the Britons, defender of the faith, Emperor of India. The reverse features Britannia, the female personification of Britain. She is seated facing right, holding a trident in her right hand and a shield with the Union Jack in her left. At her feet, the sea flows with a small ship visible to the left. The inscription simply reads 1 penny. The date 1939 is at the bottom. This reverse design had been in use since the 19th century and is one of the most iconic in British coinage. Metal composition and size. Metal, bronze. Composition, 95.5% copper, 3% tin, 1.5% zinc. Diameter, 30.8 millimeters. Weight, 9.4 grams. Edge, plain, not milled or reeded. The bronze alloy used gave the coin its distinct brownish-reddish color when new. Over time, depending on how it was stored or circulated, it may appear darker or more worn. Mintage and rarity. In 1939, Britain was still producing pre-decimal coins for everyday use. The mintage figure for the 1939 penny was mintage, approximately 42,872,000. This is a very high number, which means the coin is not particularly rare in circulated condition. However, the wartime connection and the identity of the monarch still makes it interesting for collectors. There is no known rare era for the standard 1939 penny, unlike other coins in the British series which have misprints or variety types. Value, market price. The value of a 1939 one penny depends on its condition, also known as its grade. Coins are generally graded from poor to uncirculated or mint state. Approximate values. Poor to good, around 10 pence to 50 pence or similar in other currencies. Fine condition, 1 pound to 2 pounds. Very fine to extremely fine, 3 pounds to 6 pounds. Uncirculated or brilliant uncirculated. BU 10 pounds to 25 pounds or more, depending on quality. Note prices vary depending on the coin. Market, rarity, demand, and overall condition. Collectability and interest. Even though the 1939 penny is common, it is still a popular item among coin collectors, numismatists, historians, especially WWIA-era collectors. Educational displays for teaching about British money and history. People interested in British monarchy and wartime memorabilia. Because it was issued just before large-scale changes to the British economy and currency due to World War. It's often collected as part of pre-war sets or King George VI coin collections. Cultural and symbolic value. Britannia represents British strength and maritime power. The coin serves as a symbol of stability in a time of looming global instability. For many British citizens alive during the 20th century, the 1939 penny is nostalgic. It represents a bygone era of values, empire, and the shift from peacetime to wartime. Fun facts. In 1939, a penny could buy you a newspaper, a matchbox, or even a few sweets. Pre-decimal coins like the 1939 penny remained in circulation until 1971, when Britain switched to the decimal system. Many people still have these pennies in old jars, attics, or inherited collections. The 1939 one penny is not just a piece of old money, is a small window into a critical time in British and world history. From its classic design to its connection with King George VI and World War, this coin is an excellent starting point for anyone interested in numismatics, British history, or World War II memorabilia. While not rare in itself, the 1939 penny remains a timeless keepsake for collectors and history lovers alike. This 1913 one penny is over a century old. It was minted during King George's reign, and it carries a lot of vintage charm. The 1913 one penny is a British coin that forms part of the iconic pre-decimal coinage system used in the United Kingdom before decimalization in 1971. This coin, struck during the reign of King George V, is particularly sought after by collectors and historians for its design, historical context, and the role it played in the British economy during the early 20th century. Historical context: Britain in 1913. To understand the value and significance of the 1913 one penny, it is important to examine the world in which it was minted. Pre-war Britain, the year 1913 marked the eve of World War I. It was a period of relative peace and prosperity in the British Empire, which was then the largest empire in history. Industrial expansion: Britain was a hub of industrial power, and the demand for coinage was high due to widespread trade and commerce. Monarchical stability: King George V was the ruling monarch, having ascended the throne in 1910. His reign symbolized continuity and stability before the turbulence of the Great War. The monarch, King George V. The 1913 penny bears the effigy of King George V, a symbol of authority and tradition. His portrait appears on the obverse front of the coin. Designer: the obverse design was created by Bertram McKennell, an Australian artist. Portrait features: George V is depicted in left facing a crown with the inscription VDIGIA, Brit, Money, Rex FID, Def, IND, Imp. This Latin phrase translates to George V, by the grace of God, King of all the Britons, defender of the faith, Emperor of India. Design and artistic elements: portrait of George V, clean, classic lines. Realistic representation. Lettering, as described above, in Latin. Edge: the edge of the coin is plain, not milled or reeded. Figure of Britannia, the iconic female representation of Britain, seated facing right. She holds a trident in one hand and rests the other on a shield bearing the Union flag. The sea appears in the background, symbolizing naval strength. Designer: Leonard Charles I. Inscription: the word one penny and the date 1913 are inscribed. Art style: classic Victorian style carried into the Edwardian era with high attention to detail and national symbolism. Metal composition: 95% copper, 4% tin, 1% zinc, bronze alloy. Diameter: 30.8 mm. Weight: approximately 9.45 grams. Thickness: about 1.6 mm. Edge: plain. These specifications were standard for The penny during the late Victorian and Edwardian periods. Mintage and rarity. Mintage number in 1913, around 15,989,000 pennies were minted. Mint location, Royal Mint, London. Rarity, the 1913 penny is not considered extremely rare, but high-grade examples, especially those in uncirculated or mint conditions, are quite valuable. Variants and errors. Although no officially recognized mint errors are commonly reported. For the 1913 penny, collectors always examine coins for die cracks, off-center strikes, double striking, planchette flaws. These errors can greatly increase a coin's value among numismatists. Grading and condition. The value of a 1913 one penny depends heavily on its condition, measured using standard numismatic grading. Grade description: value estimate, GBP. Poor, P, very worn, features barely visible, £1. Fine, F, moderate wear, clear details, £3.5. Very fine, VF, light wear, good detail, £10.15. Extremely fine, EF, minimal wear, strong strike, £25.50. Uncirculated, UNC, no wear, full luster, £60, £150 or more. Prices vary by market trends and rarity of pristine examples. Cultural significance. The penny was a fundamental unit of daily commerce, used by everyone from aristocrats to workers. Common use: 1 penny could buy a loaf of bread, a cup of tea, or a newspaper in 1913. Symbol of empire, Britannia on the reverse symbolized strength, pride, and maritime supremacy. Royal influence, coins with the monarchs. Images were a daily reminder of royal authority. Collecting the 1913 penny. Many collectors seek to own complete sets of British pennies by year and monarch. The 1913 penny fits within the George V series, 1911 to 1936. Pre-decimal British coinage. Bronze penny sets, starting from 1860. Under Queen Victoria. Collectors may look for coins with high grade, attractive patina, historical context, e.g., associated with pre-WWI era fake and replica coins. Due to its popularity, fake versions of old pennies exist. To avoid counterfeits, examine weight and diameter. Use a magnifying glass to check fine details and die characteristics. Buy from reputable dealers or get coins certified by a professional service, e.g. NGC. Interesting facts. Transition of empire, 1913 was the last full year of peace before World War I. End of an era. Within a year, the world would change dramatically, making 1913 coins a nostalgic token of a lost age. Collectible sets. Some collectors aim to gather coins from every year of George VS reign. Investment and future value. As antique coin collecting continues to grow, the 1913 penny's value may increase over time, especially for uncirculated coins, coins with errors or provenance, coins graded by professional agencies. It is a solid entry-level coin for budding collectors and a historic piece for advanced collections. Conclusion. The 1913 one penny is more than just a copper coin. It is a time capsule. It captures the essence of pre-war Britain, the strength of the British Empire, and the everyday life of millions. Whether you're a history enthusiast, a numismatist, or a casual collector, the 1913 penny is a fascinating piece of British heritage worth appreciating. The 1935 one penny is another piece from King George V era, a popular coin for collectors. The 1935 British one penny coin is a part of the pre-decimal currency system used in the United Kingdom before 1971. At that time, the UK used pounds, shillings, and pence. There were 12 pence in a shilling and 20 shillings in a pound, meaning 240 pence in a pound. The 1935 coin falls under the reign of King George V, who ruled from 1910 to 1936. This coin represents the later part of his reign, and it's an important numismatic piece because it reflects the political, economic, and cultural atmosphere of pre-World War Britain. Design and appearance. Portrait features a left-facing bust of King George V, designed by Bertram Ma Kennel, an Australian sculptor. Inscription: VDIGIA, Brit Rex FID, Def, IND, Imp. This Latin inscription stands for George V by the grace of God, King of all the Britons, Defender of the Faith, Emperor of India. The reverse shows Britannia, the female personification of Britain. She sits facing right, holds a trident in one hand and a shield, with the Union Jack in the other. The sea and a lighthouse may be faintly visible in the background on some strikes. Inscription: the word 1 penny appears above her. The date 1935 appears at the bottom. Composition and specifications. Metal, bronze. An alloy typically consists of about 95% copper, 4% tin, and 1% zinc. Diameter 30.81 millimeters. Weight 9.45 grams. Edge plain smooth, no reading or lettering. This coin had a significant size and weight, unlike the modern pennies, which are much smaller and lighter. Mintage and circulation. Mintage number produced approximately 56,834,400 coins were struck in 1935. It was produced for general circulation across Britain and the British Empire. Despite the high mintage, not all coins have survived in good condition, so high-grade examples are valued by collectors. Variants and errors. No major errors or varieties are commonly associated with the 1935 1 penny. However, some coins may exhibit die cracks, weak strikes, or other minor minting anomalies which can interest specialized collectors. Economic and social context. In 1935, Britain was still recovering from the effects of the Great Depression, and Europe was on the path to World War. King George V was nearing the end of his reign, and the monarchy held a strong symbolic role in maintaining unity across the British Empire. This coin circulated among the working class and middle class. A penny could buy small everyday items like a newspaper, a loaf of bread, or a bus fare. Collector value. The value of a 1935 1 penny coin depends on several factors. Condition, grade. Worn condition, circulated, about 20 pence to £1 sterling or 25 cents to $1.25 USD. Uncirculated or mint state, up to £15 to £40 plus GBP or more depending on quality. Rarity, not rare in general, but high grade or proof-like coins are more valuable. Demand, still popular with collectors of British coins and those interested in the George V era. How to grade a 1935 penny. Grading is important for determining value. Good G heavy wear, features still visible, but faint. Fine F moderate wear, most features clearly visible. Very fine VF light wear, strong details. Extremely fine EF, XF very slight wear. Sharp design. Uncirculated UNC no wear, might have minor bag marks. Brilliant uncirculated BU bright, no signs of handling, often slabbed by a grading company. Symbolism. Britannia symbolizes national pride, naval strength and imperial power. Trident and shield represent defense and maritime dominance. Latin inscriptions reflect the classical education and formal dignity of British Coinage. Legacy and end of an era. The 1935 penny represents the tail end of King George VS coinage. He died in January 1936, and coins would soon feature Edward VIII briefly, though very few were officially released with his portrait. The coin is a tangible link to pre-war Britain, a changing empire and a fading Victorian legacy. Modern relevance. Still traded among collectors. Appears in vintage coin sets, antique shops and coin fairs. Sometimes used in jewelry or craft projects due to its classic Britannia design. Care and storage. Clean only if absolutely necessary. Improper cleaning can reduce value. Store in acid-free holders, albums, or coin flips. Avoid humidity and direct sunlight to prevent corrosion. And finally, the 1967 one penny. Though the UK was preparing for decimalisation, this coin still follows the traditional system. Let's start with the historical context. The year 1967 was a time of global change. The UK was still using the pre-decimal currency system, which included pounds, shillings and pence. 1 pound equaled 20 shillings and 1 shilling equaled 12 pence, so a penny was 1/240th of a pound. In 1967, the UK was preparing for decimalisation, which would officially begin in 1971. Despite this, millions of pennies were minted in 1967, far more than in previous years. Why? Because the Royal Mint knew these coins would remain in circulation for years and wanted to ensure a steady supply. Now, let's look at the design. The 1967 penny features the familiar image of Queen Elizabeth on the obverse, designed by Mary. The Queen is portrayed young and wearing a laurel wreath. The image was used from 1953 to 1967. The reverse shows the figure of Britannia, a female personification of Britain. She is seated facing right, holding a trident in her left hand and a shield, bearing the Union Jack in her right. Beside her is a lighthouse, symbolizing Britain's naval power and history. The word one penny arches across the top, and the date 1967 is centered below. The design by Leonard Charles. One had been in use since the late 19th century. The 1967 penny was minted in huge numbers. Over 654 million coins were produced. That's one of the highest mints for a British coin. It was minted in bronze, made up of 95.5% copper, 3% tin, and 1.5% zinc. The coin weighs 9.4 grams and has a diameter of 30.8 millimeters and a smooth edge. Because of its large size and unique color, the 1967 penny is one of the most recognizable British coins from the century. So, is the 1967 penny valuable? The short answer is not really, unless it's in perfect condition or has an error. In circulated condition, a 1967 penny is worth about 1 to 10 pence. But in uncirculated or proof condition, it can sell for £1 to £5 or more. There are no major known mint errors for this year, but coins with unusual wear, misstrikes, or those sealed in mint packaging can be of special interest to collectors. If you have one in its original Royal Mint set or proof set, it might fetch a slightly higher price. Here are some fun facts. The 1967 penny is often used in magic tricks and novelty gifts because of its size and availability. Interestingly, although dated 1967, some pennies were minted in 1968 and even 1970 for collector sets, but with the 1967 date. Many former British colonies used similar designs, and the coin remains popular. with collectors worldwide. If you're starting a coin collection, the 1967 penny is a great and affordable coin. To begin with, look for coins with sharp details, minimal scratches, and a rich bronze tone. To preserve your coin, store it in a cool, dry place away from moisture. Use coin flips or holders made from acid-free materials. Narration. That wraps up our in-depth look at the 1967 British 1 penny coin. A piece of history you can hold in your hand. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more amazing coin stories. Let us know in the comments if you own a 1967 penny or have questions about other coins. Thanks for watching and happy collecting.